Such an honor to be here with all of you guys. Well, as he said, my name is Kevin Peeples. I've been married for 6.5 years. We have 5 kids. Yes, we know what causes that, and we are very blessed. I've been an entrepreneur ever since I can remember. I've wanted to make films since I was 9 years old. And I started a company when I was 17, and I ran that for 10 years. So jumping back to 2013, we were at a film festival in which we had placed with one of our documentaries. And at one of the after parties that we were at, I overheard a pastor speaking to another artist. So I'm going to insert myself into this, into their conversation, and whatever you guys do, however you identify yourself, add yourself into this as well. So the pastor was speaking to this artist, and he said, "God did not create you to be a filmmaker." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "God created you to glorify him." And I said, "Well, yeah, that's obvious." And then he said, "If he took away your sight, if he took away your hands, if he took away whatever you needed to do to fulfill your purpose, could you still fulfill your purpose?" And that's when I dropped my head and I said, I could still fulfill my purpose. And that's when I realized that my filmmaking had become my idol. And I really wrestled with this. I went back to my company, and after a couple of months, I went to my business partner. It was me and another partner at the time, and I just talked through it with him and told him, the things that were going on, and I really felt like we needed to restructure our company. I had gone with my business plan for 10 years, which was trying to build up my success, trying to build up what I wanted to do so I could someday do what the Lord wanted me to do. And he wasn't ready for the direction that I wanted to go in, and I didn't feel like it was fair to take that company away from him, and so I resigned. And again, this was the only company that I'd ever known, the only job I'd ever had, working for myself. And resigning from a company like that, from a family, imagine your house burning down, and you only make it out with your family and your keys in your car. That's kind of what it was like to walk away. And I was very careful about doing anything that would make that an idol. I was willing to completely walk away from the only thing that I knew how to do. Because again, that was my identity, and I needed to build my identity in Christ. And so, fast forward to 2014, I slowly started to not have any work. Some of the clients that were coming to me that were still from the production company that I had, I was turning down because I didn't feel like it was right to do the same thing just under a different name. And so I was really praying, Lord, I really want to do faith-based films. I don't want to sell furniture. I don't want to sell products. I want to sell the kingdom of God in my work. I want to be similar to what a pastor does, but through film. And so that was my prayer. But slowly the work was disappearing, and we were having more kids, and I was trying to decide, is this the right thing to do? Do I need to take these jobs? And I got an email about a prayer meeting for War Room. It was a pastors-only prayer meeting. And I said, man, not a pastor. Technically not a pastor. So I can't go. And then the next day, my pastor emailed. He said, I got you a ticket. You're coming with me. And so got my game face on, got my business cards, and I said, okay, this is the next thing for me. I want to be on this film and be able to learn from people, learn from humble men that have gone and done what I would love to do someday, making films and doing it with humility. I knew that was the main thing that I was missing in my work was humility. I thought I was a leader. I thought I led well, but when I looked behind me, I didn't have anybody following me. And just because I was in a leadership position doesn't mean that I was a good leader. And so we went to this prayer meeting and mingled around for a while and found out that all the crew spots were full on the film. And so I was like, Lord, what are you doing? Kind of quit teasing me with this. And then I remembered one of the books that we were working on from another project. And Anthony Comstock is kind of my new favorite hero, and he's done the most that we know of for this country in the fight for purity. And so I remembered what his mother taught him whenever he was young that he used to work and fight against the evils of this country. And so this is where I started to build my prayer strategy. His mother said when he was young, she said, "Before every effort, prayer. Over all prayer, thy will be done. After prayer, put yourself in the way of receiving the answer. Be up and doing." So I knew that I needed to not just say, "Lord, here's what I want." I knew I needed to get to work with what I had. So I met with the locations manager. I went to a meeting, and I tried everything I could to somehow get on the crew. And for 3 weeks, there was nothing. There were no phone calls, no emails. And during that 3-week time, we went home and we rewatched all the Kendrick Brothers films. Have you guys seen Facing the Giants? There's a scene in Facing the Giants where a man comes up in the hallway to Alex Kendrick's character, and he tells him that there's 2 farmers that are praying for rain. And he said the one that prepared for rain was the one that was looking and waiting for an answer. And so I knew that if I was waiting and willing for God to answer my prayers, I needed to prepare for rain. I needed to actually have faith that the Lord would answer my prayers. And then one thing that Stephen Kendrick said at the prayer meeting was that specific prayers receive specific answers. And so I never felt like I had prayed specifically before. I said I wanted to make faith-based films, but that's very generic. And so I changed my prayer, and I said, "Lord, I would love to work for the Kendrick Brothers on War Room. I would love to be in a position where I can learn from these humble men and really learn humility." So work was dwindling down, and I get a phone call from the associate producer on War Room. And he said, "We only have 1 spot left on the film, and it's in the locations department." If you guys aren't familiar with what that is, it's the bottom of the totem pole. The locations department is kind of like a janitorial position. You get there before all the actors do. You unlock the rooms. You get everything set up for the crew to arrive. You may even be there the night before setting everything up. Your days are 14, 15 hours long, and it's the lowest paid position on the whole crew. And I said, I think this is my answer to prayer. I had traveled the world with my films. I had won awards. I had done all this flashy stuff. And I felt like this was God saying, you need to be at the bottom of the totem pole, and you need to work your way up in humility. And I said, Lord, I will humbly take this position. So we rejoiced. And then 3 hours later, the producer calls back, and he says, I'm sorry, but that position is no longer available. And I said, okay, Lord, what's going on here? And he said, well, somebody wants to speak to you. And I said, okay. So there was this long pause, and then Stephen Kendrick comes on the phone. And he says, have you ever done craft services? And I'm like, well, yes, I've done craft services on music videos in the past, but why would he want me to do craft services on a feature film? So I tried to go along with it, and he just started busting out laughing, and he was like, dude, I don't need you for craft services. He said a behind-the-scenes position opened up on the film, and we'd love for you to fill that position if you'll have it. And I realized that behind the scenes is the best position that I could possibly be in to be able to learn from these humble men. Because behind the scenes is taking a camera. You get to go anywhere you want. You get to film anybody you want to for as long as you want to. And you have all this wonderful footage that you get to go back and watch and study. So you get to be a fly on the wall. And I had prayed a specific prayer, and God specifically answered it and more than I could have imagined. So that became my journey to being on War Room. And I realized that my prayers were not answered until I quit idolizing myself and my skills. For any of you guys who are taking notes, again, my prayer strategy was before every effort, prayer. Over all prayer, thy will be done. And then remember that specific prayers receive specific answers. And put yourself in the way of receiving the answer and being up and doing. And then prepare for rain. I was ready for it to rain. I was ready for God to be faithful. And as I said, I was running out of work. My last day of work was on a Friday. They wanted me to start the following Monday. And that was in 2014, and I've been working with them ever since. I didn't just work on behind the scenes. I've been the video marketing editor after the movie was done. And that's basically all the videos on Facebook, all the videos on YouTube, any speaking engagements that they have. I've cut together footage from behind the scenes in the movie and put that all together. And then we were able to be in the film. It was a last minute, it was the night before. They had the other person couldn't work out, so they called me. And we were actually due to have our fourth Yes, you lose count after 3. So we had our 4th, and we were having him 6 or 7 days into production, and that was another thing that whenever we were on the phone, I was talking to Stephen about it. I knew, like, I don't need to hide this. I don't need to get the job and then kind of introduce that. So I was saying on the phone, even if this loses my position, we're about to have a baby, and production is tight on a movie. You don't want to walk away for that in the middle of a 6-week engagement. And he said, dude, we're not going to be in the way of you and your family. Take as much time as you need, and we'll make things work around that. So because of that, because of all these answered prayers, on the day that he was born, we decided to name him Kendrick, just in honor of all of these answered prayers. And then 4.5 weeks later, Sweet Karen was able to pray over me as I was praying over him in the movie, thanking God for all of these answered prayers. And that is the scene that appeared in the movie, was me actually praying over him and just thanking God. And finally, the last amazing answered prayer in this is, my original prayer was I wanted to share the gospel through film. And I counted up all the videos, the 60 or so videos that I produced over the last year for War Room, has been viewed, all of those together have been viewed over 13 million times. And in every one of those, I've been able to put the message of the gospel. So the gospel has been heard over 13 million times from my home office. So all of that to say, we are just amazingly thankful for the Kendricks, for their work on War Room, and ultimately up to God for just answering those prayers in a way that I never could have imagined. Thank you so much.